Boop boop ba boop ba doom bum. Boop boop ba boop ba doom bum da dum da dum da dum ba doom bum. Beep ba boop ba boop ba boop da ba doom bum. Beep ba boop ba boop beep boop ba ba doom bum. Boop boop ba boop ba doom bum. Boop boop ba boop ba doom bum da dum da dum da dum ba doom bum. Beep ba boop ba boop ba boop da ba doom bum. Beep ba boop ba boop beep boop ba ba doom bum. Dum dum da dum dum da 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 dum dum da dum da dum dum da dum dum da 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 dum dum da dum 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 da dum dum da 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 dum dum da dum da dum dum da dum dum da 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 dum dum da dum 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 da dum dum da 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 dum dum da dum dum da 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 dum dum da dum dum da 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 dum 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 dum. Hi folks, this is Dave Lentz for reasonandbalance.com. I put together this video. It's pretty comprehensive about this diet and exercise program that I started last summer in 2018 to train for the Pittsburgh Marathon, which is May 5th, 2019. I just want to strongly encourage everyone to get, to exercise and watch what they eat. But I would just say this, that since I've started this this program, what I've found is that to the extent that I've suffered through periods of depression in my life, that I find that I don't have those periods of depression anymore. So for people that are trying to kick alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, trying to kick depression, I can't emphasize enough how great it is to get into shape, even if you're not training for a marathon, as long as it's relatively, your own health and age permitting. But I'm 64, I'll be 65 in July. This is March the 14th. I'll be just 2 months shy of my 65th birthday when I attempt this marathon. I've been up as high as 284 pounds. Right now I'm somewhere down around 191, I just can't say enough about just being focused on something like this. I find when I'm out in my challenging runs that I'm really strategizing, and it takes my mind off of all of my problems, basically, because it's a challenge. And I guarantee you that if you were to try to attempt what this program that I've set forth in this video, that one minute you would be cursing me and the next minute you would be praising every word that I ever said. But I think it's definitely worthwhile. It's worthwhile to challenge yourself every now and then, and so I just wanted to say that if you're struggling with any of those things, alcohol, depression, cigarettes, drugs, whatever, something like this is just absolutely great. So I don't want to delay any further. Let's get down to the video in question. Thanks a whole lot for visiting us, and here it is. Okay folks, how you doing? This is Dave Lentz with reasonandbalance.com. Well, as I often do, I have decided to go whole hog on this particular video. I'm going to basically lay out the entire shoot match in terms of the training schedule from soup to nuts. Basically, the bottom line is about 9 months, about 9 months, well, for my case, I guess this last summer of 2018, I embarked on this program to run in the Pittsburgh Marathon. I was about 230 pounds. Did a bunch of complex calculations. I'll probably do a little short video on it at another time. But I decided, because I had trouble in previous years, that I was too slow. But I sort of thought that maybe if I lost a little weight, I might be able to pick up a little speed. Well, not sure I picked up any speed, but I can run at a better pace for a longer period of time. The bottom line was, I did the calculation, and I determined that if I got to 191 pounds, that I would have a chance of finishing the marathon within 6 hours. Okay, so that gave me about 9 months to get there, and I had to lose essentially 40 pounds, 39 pounds to be exact. And I have been able to do so. I'm going to show you the schedule from day one. Now, in essence, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the schedule I'm going to show you, I really didn't do, because I was probably already running about 10 miles a week, and in a certain sense you have to get in shape to get in shape. But I basically took what I was doing and sort of backed into the first couple of weeks of what I'm going to show you. But that's a long time ago now. Then I'm more concerned, since I've got, basically today is March the 10th, 2019. We've got exactly 8 weeks from today for the Pittsburgh Marathon. So I've got 8 weeks to go, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do there. Now, interestingly enough, originally I had been, up until this week, I had been exactly on schedule, ran every day, no problems, no missed days of running or anything like that. The schedule has worked like a charm. But when I did my first long run of this past week, I got a certain amount of soreness in my ankle, and I decided that it might be a little bit of tendonitis coming on, that I think either had to do with my working out on the exercise bike, or I was running on a very steep downhill grade and maybe I just jammed my ankle. But I've had that problem before, and when it surfaces, it can take a long time to get that situation cured, basically in that part of my ankle. So I decided to give it a couple days, 2 days off. And what I decided to do, even though my normal strategy for missed days is to treat them like they didn't occur, and I just basically continue with whatever that day's schedule called for, as if I had successfully completed those 2 days. This time I changed it. I decided to move up my extra long run 1 day to Saturday instead of Sunday, and I increased the mileage slightly since I had 2 days rest. Now, my ankle felt really good, so I decided to go ahead and do it. A little bit had to do with the weather, what the weather was going to be like on Sunday, which is today. There was a lot of factors, but I decided to do my extra long run yesterday, which was Saturday, which is normally my feast day. So I did my extra long run on a feast day, which is not what I normally do. I normally do my extra long run on a fast day. My feast day is the day before the extra long run, the very long run day. But anyway, so I decided to run 15 miles yesterday, and it was a bear, but I did it. I didn't do too bad through about 12 miles. The last 3 miles were a bear. I was a little bit disappointed I had that much trouble with the run since I had 2 days rest, but I made it. And last night I had problems with, I was very warm, and it wasn't a very good evening, and I was very, very stiff. And then I made another extremely unusual step. Now, normally after an extra long run, I make sure I take the next day off, because I think running right after an extra long run, you really risk straining or pulling a muscle. But I decided to go ahead and do it. In fact, I just got back from the gym. I did take a shower, but I spent basically, I ran a half a mile, and I was so stiff. I said, you know, I was very concerned about an injury, so I decided to go to the gym, and I lifted some weights, and then I thought, well, let me see what I can do on the exercise bike. I went 54 minutes on the exercise bike. It was super. I mean, I 54 minutes, I was cooking along at all, you know, about 10 3/4 calories per minute, which is, you know, between like 9 3/4 and 10 1/4 is where I usually am. So being that high, that fast, it's just amazing, because if you would have asked me while I was trying to run what I was going to do, I was so stiff. Maybe I just didn't give it quite long enough. But anyway, this will all make more sense when I talk about our schedule. Anyway, so I'm just giving you that heads up. So I wanted you to sort of know what I do when it's going to happen. You're going to miss a day, or you're going to get slightly injured, you're going to get a cold, or something's going to happen, what to do. Normally, I just pretend like it didn't happen, and whatever the next day's schedule calls for, that's what I do. I made an exception this time. I hope it doesn't throw me out of kilter too much. It's very bizarre. I get very apoplectic. I go into conniptions when I get off that schedule, because I just feel like very fine-tuned psychologically, and it's a big deal to me to get off the schedule, but I did, and I'm very happy that I did manage to do the 15 miles. I did 15 miles a little over a month ago when I was wasn't running 6 days a week. But anyway, so I'll show you where we are when we get to the schedule here, which I'm going to show you right now. First of all, what you need to know is I'm going to take pictures of these slides that I'm about to show you. So if you can't see them very well, fear not. I will make them clearer, and you'll be able to see them in the video much better. It's important. The first thing you need to know is let's see, maybe that this program is risky. I mean, if you're training for a marathon, I personally was a classmate with a guy that died during a marathon, and another basically my best friend was training for basically a 10K, and he fell over dead. So the risk of stroke or death, and I think it was Jim Fix, somebody, there was a famous marathoner who basically died as well. So this is serious business, and you need to check with your doctor before you get into the nuts and bolts of attempting this training schedule or attempting a marathon. We don't endorse any products or anything like that here. So I will mention some a few times. They just work. They're what we use, and so far they've worked for us. They may not be right for you. You may have allergy problems. They may break. I'm not endorsing or suggesting that you use any brand name product or equipment or anything like that, or any food or anything like that. You need to check with your dietitian and your doctor as to whether the diet anything that I say about a diet is right for you. You assume all risk regarding if you follow what we do in this video. There's no guarantee so you're going to finish. I don't know if I'm going to finish the Pittsburgh Marathon. I mean, I'm working my buns off to try to get there, so this is sort of a mutual adventure, this video. So I don't know if this is going to work. I've lined up for 4 marathons in my life. I've finished 3 of them. And the schedule that I'm about to show you is pretty much what I did before. In fact, but for the fact that I have to spend more time doing it because I'm so much slower, it's the same thing. Okay, I'm going to break this down into 3 phases, and in phase 1, which we're going to talk about first, we suggest
my whole purpose in phase one when I set out to do this last summer was, first of all, I wanted to get my weight down. This has been a long, arduous process. The weight loss program for me has been slower than I would have liked, but on the other hand, I haven't had problems with muscle pulls, and I haven't felt as bad. So whatever I did this time, even though I wish the weight had come off faster, it worked. And maybe it coming off more slowly is a healthier thing and a more long-lasting thing. But I'll tell you where, at some point I'm going to mention in these videos the use of chewing gum and lifesavers. I don't recommend doing that really for a very long period of time. I just did that because I got to the point where I was struggling so much to lose my weight, and when I would go and this has been like basically between the first part of December, when I was at 202 pounds, to try to get to 191, it took forever, and it seemed like a couple times my weight actually went up, and so it was out of desperation I started doing the gum so I wouldn't eat as much. But let me tell you, it created, the gum was great, it tasted great, it kept me occupied, it kept me from eating, but I developed a lot of problems, frankly, with gas and bloating, and what was happening in the bathroom was, I found to be a little bit, frankly, alarming. So I will talk about the gum as sort of I would only do that temporarily if you do tend to follow that suggestion when I talk about that. Let me just say about like I said, this program is a lot of it, not all of it, but most of it is my vague recollection of a couple chapters of a book that my girlfriend gave me back in 1980 on training for a marathon. I didn't keep it. I don't know where it is, but I remember vividly the philosophy behind that training system and that training schedule, and this is pretty much based on whatever it was I read at the time, and I have no idea who wrote it, where it comes from, but I will tell you, I got it in a book that well, not in a book, I think it was just a couple chapters of a book that my ex-girlfriend made copies of for me, and I read it and I followed it. And the one thing you're going to notice is that the longest run, I think, in what I'm going to show you is going to be 17 miles. And I remember when I did the training system back in the early 80s when I ran it twice, I mean, the longest run was like 14 or 15 miles, and I thought, what about the other 11? How am I going to be prepared for that? Well, this book, whatever it was, or these chapters that I read, basically said, just trust us, you'll be able to do it. If you do the weekly mileage, you'll be able to do it. Just trust us. I trusted it, and it worked. 3 times out of 4. It's a little bit of an adventure. It's a little scary, but that's the way it goes. Okay, so I think that's enough on that. Let me change the okay. Now, like I said, 9 months ago, excuse me, shoot. 9 months ago, we started this little venture in phase 1. That was last summer. This is like a 39-week program. Phase 1 is weeks 1 through 13. You see that over on the right-hand side. Basically, you're talking about when you're able to run somewhere up to 11 miles per week. So that's over on the right-hand side. Excuse me, that's all over on the right-hand side. And basically what I did was I ran every other day, 3 times a week. And on the days I didn't run 3 times a week, I went to the gym and lifted weights. And that worked like a charm. Weeks 1 through 13. I focused mostly there on my diet, my 1,700 calorie a day diet, except I had one feast day when I could eat anything I wanted. I didn't eat fried food on my feast day. I don't like fried food, but lots of ice cream, lots of donuts, pizza, whatever. But 5 days a week, 1,700 calories, pretty much turkey breast, sardines, kale, spinach. But then there was the feast day, which was the 6th day. That on day 6 up there, the R at 6, R's are running days. X's are either days off or gymnasium weightlifting days. But on day 6, actually, that's a little bit, when I think about that, actually, you know something, this here, now that I think about this, this should be an X, this should be an R, this should be an X, this should be an R, this should be an X, and this should be an R. For example, if one is Monday, and these are Saturday and Sunday, okay, the reason I say that is that the 6th day would be my feast day, and this would be a very long run day. I might run farther on that day, but this would be my feast day, 6, and this would be my very long. So I have unlimited eating on 6, whatever I wanted, and on 7 would be my extra long run day. So that is sort of the way that worked, and all these X's, I think I've got, yeah, X is either off or a gym and weight state. Normally Mondays on all these programs I try to keep totally off. In other words, no gym, no weights, it's totally off. It's a rest day. But the other ones, if it's an X, it's a day you go to the gym and lift weights. Now, okay, so I've explained that in a previous video, and so that's with phase 1. Now phase 2 transitions, because where we want to get in phase 3 is 6 days of running. But you don't just all of a sudden start running 6 days a week. I mean, you could try it. So, if you're young, you probably can get away with doing it. But if you're an older person like I am, you need rest. Your body takes longer to recuperate as you get older. And I think that, Roger Bannister, when he broke the 4-minute mile, didn't run every day. He actually ran every other day. So the rest is just as important as the runs. But if you're going to try to get your weekly mileage up, which is what we endeavor to do in training for the marathon under this system, we want to run 6 days a week, and we've got to build up to that. And so we transition, and I show you the schedules in phase 2. You have a short run, and you do for a few weeks you go 4 days a week with all short runs. Then you go to 4 days a week of running, but you have one long run at the end of the week, again on Sunday. And during this period, I was still on my 1,700 calorie a day feast one day, which was Saturday, and long run on Sunday, which was my fast day. Okay, so whereas in phase 1 you were trying to get up to 11 miles a week, in phase 2 you're trying to go, and this is during weeks 14 through 26, which is basically up to about a half a year after you started. You increase your weekly mileage from 12 miles a week to 26 miles a week. I'll let you to work out how to do that. It would make this video too long, but that's basically what you're doing. You're increasing your mileage during phase 2 from 12 miles a week to 26 miles a week. That's up to week 26. Okay, so by the end, basically, of that bottom rung of phase 2, where you're running 5 days a week with one long run on Sunday at the end, you're running 5 with a short run, long run, short run, short run, long run, with 2 days off. Now, let me just say this. During this entire period, I still go and work out with weights 3 days a week. So this obviously means that during some days that you run, you're also going to lift at the gym. And that's a little bit of a pain in the rear end, but that's what you're going to do. Now, I do sort of cut back a little bit my gym time, whereas in phase 1 I probably spend an hour in the gym lifting weights. In phase 2 I'm probably around 40 to 45 minutes in the gym on those days when I lift. I try not to lift 2 days in a row, but I try to lift 3 days a week. So you obviously are going to have days where you, and normally I do the lifting on the days where I have a shorter run, not on my long run day. Okay, the same is going to be true in phase 3, although by the time I'm in phase 3, I'm so focused on running. When I lift, I probably am only going to lift for about a half an hour, and since I'm losing weight, what I find out is that whether I like it or not, I have to go to slightly lighter weights when I do the lifts, because in fact the biggest problem I've had muscularly has been upper body, because I continue to want to lift the same heavy weights that I lifted when I was 230, when I'm now 190, and it just doesn't work. I'm just not that strong in the upper body anymore. I tend to have some tendon problems in my elbows now, and so anyway, but you will have overlap, and I do try to do gym work, weights on days when I have short runs. So phase 3 is right there. You take Monday off. I like to be able to have Saturday and Sunday to run. Monday's the off day. You go short run, long run, short run, long run. That's a long run. It's short run, long run, short run, long run, short run, very long run. The very long run. Now let me just say this. What's a very long run? Your very long run should be 1 1/3 times whatever your long run is. And your that's at least that much. It could be more. Your long run should be at least 1 1/2 times what your short run is, maybe more. So that's the formula. For example, if my short runs are 45, let's make the numbers simple. If my short runs are 50 minutes, okay, that means my long runs are going to be 75 minutes, because 1.5 times 50 is 75 minutes. So my long runs are always 1 1/2 times a short run. If my long run is 75 minutes, then my very long run is going to be 1 1/3 which is 100 minutes. Yeah, it would be 100 minutes. In that scenario, my short run would be 50 minutes. My long run would be an hour and 15 minutes. And my very long run would be an hour and 40 minutes for that week, if that was the length of my short run. Now, as time goes on, as you will see with my schedule, notice all those formulas say or more, and they do become more, okay? So, but that's how those numbers work out. But you're trying to go in phase 2 from 12 miles a week to 26 miles a week. See, the total mileage per week is key. What we want to do is we want to get at least 6 weeks of training time in prior to the marathon, doing probably more than 46 or 47 miles a week. That's what we want to do. And preferably a few weeks in there where we're above 50. So that's what we're trying to get to, and that's basically the schedule. Now, what am I doing in actuality? Well, what I'm doing in actuality is okay. So what I'm doing in actuality is this, and this is where I am right now. Actually, I'm on week 2. All right, yeah, I'm on week 2. But it's like I said at the beginning of this video, as you can see over on the right-hand column is my total weekly mileage. As you can see, I've already stopped going up in terms of my short runs, which are the 5s up there. Those are the short runs. My long runs, which are on Wednesday and Friday, they are going to gradually increase, as is my very long run, which is on Sunday. Notice that, Saturday 5 miles. Now if you get down to week 7, you'll see that's when my 17 miler is. That'll be the longest I ever run in training. That's a 52-mile week. And then that's 2 weeks before the marathon. The marathon is Sunday, May the 5th. And that's 2 weeks later. And so that means in the 8th week, because this is the 9th, I did this preparation a week ago, and we are now at the end of week 2 already of that. So really tomorrow we will be on week 3 of that schedule. Tomorrow is March the 11th, starts week 3, and on Tuesday I'll run 5 miles, Wednesday I'll run 9 miles, Thursday I'll run 5 miles, Friday 9 miles, Saturday 5 miles, Sunday 13.5 miles. Okay, that's my schedule for this week, to get above 40, to get to 46.5 miles this week. So you can see we're running out of time to train for this marathon, and so every training session is crucial. But that's where we are right now. Now, like I said, on this week, I did not successfully do the 45 miles. I just did Tuesday and Wednesday. I completed those. I missed, this is in week 2 on that schedule that you see in front of you. I did the 5 on Tuesday. I did the 8.5 on Wednesday. But then I took, because I thought I might be developing an injury, I took Thursday and Friday off, and then I ran my extra long. But since I had 2 days off, I decided that I would sort of go for it and max out. I did 15 miles instead of the 5. I did 15, and then today I did exercise bike. And so what I do when I do that, I explained what I did there. I get credit for that 5. So really for this week, I did 13 and a half and I did 20, so I did 33 and a half miles this week, which is well below that 45, but I did do the extra mileage for my extra long day. So, you know, I salvaged something out of the week, and the fact that that extra long run was 2 miles longer than what I was scheduled to do sort of makes me a little bit happy. It's a good consolation prize anyway. But notice that in week 8, the week before the marathon and after the 52-mile week and the 17-mile very long run, I taper off. I go back down to 45. Even though I taper off to 45, and then on the week of the marathon, I like to get at least 2 days off. What I've discovered is I may take that third day off where I've got that just that picky-uni little 2-miler in, but I don't like taking 3 days off. I actually feel like maybe it's just an age thing that I actually go stale if I take 3 days off. And that's one of the big reasons that, frankly, why I did my 15-miler on Saturday. I didn't want to go too stale, but who knows? That's all up in the air. So anyway, so the last week I taper off and make sure I get 2 days off. One of those days is going to be a travel day because it takes me 6 hours to get there, 5.5, something like that. So anyway, that's my schedule. That's where I am, and I hope that you found you know, this portion of the video to be informative. Thanks.
Bum 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 ba-dum, 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 bum 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 ba-dum. Bum 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 ba-dum, 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 bum 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 ba-dum. Bum 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 ba-dum, 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 bum 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 ba-dum. Bum 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 ba-dum, 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 bum 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 ba-dum.
Yeah, what I wanted to interject here is one of the things that I've found in terms of this feast-fast diet, and in terms of this particular diet that I've used this time, which I have found to be totally amazing in a good sense, a very good sense. If you would have asked me in the past whether it was possible to do any kind of really serious weight loss once your mileage gets, you know, up there. And what I mean by up there is really more than like, I don't know, 25 miles a week, maybe even more than 20 miles a week.
in the past, because of when I tried to do that, if I was dieting, I always got injured, and I attributed it to the fact that my muscles just didn't have enough fuel in them to withstand the extra rigors of extra mileage and extra exercise. So my previous thinking was that it's impossible to lose weight and actually push your mileage up when you run. I found, because I always got injured when I did that in the past. What's happened this time? Now, I did later on, I went from 230 down to 191, but I did find that once I got to about 202 that it was really difficult to lose weight, and that's how I got into the gum thing and all that kind of stuff, which, like I said, there are some drawbacks to that, but I did start to chew the gum, but that's beside the point. But what I found is that I was able to significantly increase my mileage despite the fact that I was on a diet. I mean, part of that was I was giving myself more frankly, more sugar, carbo. That's the way I was getting it. I was getting it in the form of chewing gum and lifesavers, as stupid as that sounds. And of course, the feast day on the day before the extra long run, I think, is absolutely key to all this. I was maxed out on the carbs, eating waffles, donuts, and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is that this diet, the 1,700 calorie, then feast, then fast on the 6th and 7th day, really worked in terms of increasing the mileage and losing the weight up to the point where I was doing in the 30s, upper 30s, and still losing weight. Knock on wood. I hope my luck continues, but I really don't want to lose any more weight. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. The other thing is that the basic idea, the basic philosophy is that you don't have 2 hard days in a row, or you alternate exercising. Now, naturally, if you're going to get your mileage up there and you're running 6 days a week, you've got to run every day. You can't do like you did in phase 1, where you're running every other day, or even in the transition period where you're getting days off. You're only getting 1 day off in phase 3. But you are doing long, short, that, and you're alternating days in that sense. That's because rest is just as important as the exercise, and your muscles need time to recuperate. And believe me, you will be grateful for those days off once it gets the program gets to be really intense. But I wanted to add that it's really made me sort of a believer in this program. Like I said, you need to check with your doctor if you're approved for any kind of dieting or exercise program that's mentioned on this video. Okay, I just wanted to mention that. I am going to show you here the slide that I did from a prior video that for phase 1, that basically shows the 7-day, the 5-day 1,700 calorie, then 1 feast day, then 1 fast day, juxtaposed against the phase 1 3-day-a-week running routine, and the other day is going to the gym. Okay.
Hello folks, this is Dave Lentz for ReasonandBalance.com. Today is March the 5th, 2019. Anybody that's been following along knows that I've been training for the Pittsburgh Marathon, which is exactly 2 months away. It's on May 5th, 2019. Last week I was able to get my mileage up for the entire week, running 6 days to up to 41.5 miles. Because of that, and I don't know, about a month, maybe about 3 weeks ago, I did one run of 15 miles. I decided that, I might even have a shot at actually doing the marathon. So I, unlike prior years where at about this time, if I've been training for it, either I was too slow because I was a little bit overweight or I was injured, This year, everything, knock on wood for sure, I'm healthy. I'm not really having any kind of serious leg problems. I've reached my weight objective. As I explained in a prior video, I wanted to get down to 191. I got on the scale the other day, and with my gym shorts on, I weighed 191.2. Well, since I was at my gym, I decided not to go all the way and go to nude, but I'm comfortable. I'm at least down to 191 even. So anyway, so I'm at my weight, and I wanted to get to 191 because based on the amount of calories I burnt per minute, that's about the weight that I calculated that I had to be to have a chance to finish within 6 hours, because I thought that I would have to finish the course within 6 hours. And I think that was the old rule for the Pittsburgh Marathon, but this year it's going to be 7 hours, so I should have about an hour to spare. My own feeling is if I have a really good day, you know, I'm probably looking at best at 5.5 hours. I don't think I'm going to be that fast. If I can get down to about 11-minute and 45-second miles if I'm running like 3 or 4 miles. You know, when you start talking over 7 miles, my times start to fall off. I think I would be very, very lucky to average less than 13-minute miles. I think I'm probably going to average 13 plus. My real goal is well, number one, I want to finish, and I want to do it all running with no walking. And next, I want to be able to finish within less than 6 hours. But let me tell you, the big thing is to finish. As you may know, I've finished 3 marathons before the last one being in 1994, a long time ago. So I'm really excited about it. I made the reservations, paid my fee, and the admission fee is about $300. Well, they offer a lot of bells and whistles. I paid to register for the marathon and have a place to go to after the marathon, and there's a picture taking element to it and all that. It cost me $360. Now that is refundable under certain circumstances. I paid extra to get that refundability. I'm not sure that I totally understand the refundability, but there is some element of refundability. I probably have to come up with some kind of doctor's excuse or something. I don't know. And then the hotel, because I waited until last night to register, it's going to cost me over $600. Now that includes parking, and that's within walking distance of the starting line and the finish line. You know, I'm 64. I'll just be 2 months shy of my 65th birthday on the day of the race, and I wanted convenience. I'm sure that if I had decided to not stay in downtown Pittsburgh near the starting line, I could have come up with a lot better deal than that. But this whole situation, the whole race is probably, and I'm going to rent a car to go up there, is probably going to, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, so I'll probably do some other things up there. So I'm going to rent a car, and I'll probably go up there. This whole thing is, and there's the tolls on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. The whole thing is probably going to cost me well over $1,000, maybe even closer to $1,500 to do this, the whole shooting match. I want to take into account food and Pennsylvania Turnpike tolls, gas, and all that stuff. Maybe not quite that much, but it's getting up there. All right, so here I've written down some notes of some things that I want to talk about. First of all, the most important thing is the diet change. I mean, we were on the earlier videos, I think I showed you the diet where it was 1,700 calories 5 days a week, 1 feast day, 1 fast day. My long run of the week was always the day after my feast day, but I was only running 3 days a week, and I was doing weights 3 days a week, had 1 day off. I've gradually, in
from about the middle of December through about, you know, the second week of February, I gradually worked from running 3 days a week up to now I'm running 6 days a week. That's the regimen that I used when I trained for marathons before, when I was a young lad. And so basically I'm using the same formula. I'm going to share that with you. I will do a separate slide for that. But there's been a diet change, and as my mileage has crept up from about basically 20-25 miles a week up to, you know, now I'm at what, 41 and a half, that 1,700 calories has really crept up to about 2,200 calories. I really have tried to stick with the 1,700, but my diet has shifted. Before, I was very focused on just protein and green vegetables, not much in the way of carbs, but I've slipped away from that. Basically out of desperation, so I wouldn't eat so much, I started chewing a lot of gum, both sugar-free gum and sugar gum, regular sugar gum. And it's been, honestly, it's been kind of effective and lifesavers. And the reason I do that is because I review a lot of documents at work. It can be very tedious, very boring, and I've tried to find something that allows me to consume, if I'm going to consume calories, to consume them more slowly. Sugar-free gum is about 5 calories per stick. Full sugar gum is 10 calories per stick. And that has been somewhat successful. So the real breakdown of my caloric intake in terms of calories, you know, green leaf, kale, spinach are two biggies for me. I don't eat as much fruit as I did in prior diets for some of my carbs. I do allow myself an Egg McMuffin occasionally, but I do allow myself a few more carbs. I would say that probably 40% of my calories right now are carbs, but they, unbelievably, they come in the form of lifesavers and gum mostly. On my feast day, I eat a lot of ice cream, frankly, and I eat donuts. I can eat anything I want, but I'm going to leave that aside. The feast. But aside from going up to 1,700 calories and having a little more sugar in my diet, in terms of the carbs and in terms of getting fewer of my calories, percentage-wise, I still eat. I probably eat 27 ounces of turkey every day. Probably about 27 ounces of turkey. Some sardines, probably, you know, maybe 2 to 4 ounces of sardines, I used to eat a lot of grape tomatoes, but lately I've been getting a lot of bad grape tomatoes, so I've virtually eliminated those. But anyway, I don't know. The dietitians may have problems with eating with lifesavers and the gum, but I will tell you, it's really helped me keep my total caloric intake down, because before what I would do I would get things like, you know, I might get some crackers and stuff like that, and that stuff I would consume calories more quickly, and of course carbs generally don't fill you up. So anyway, the bottom line is this has worked for me, and the great thing about having more carbs in my diet is my muscles seem to react better because they have fuel. Before, in prior years when I've trained, this over-focus on protein in the diet and eliminating a lot of carbs had a tendency to make me prone to muscle pulls. And I have not experienced that. My legs, knock on wood, feel great. They feel great, the best they've felt. And so that's one thing. Okay, shoes. You know, I want to talk about shoes. I now basically run. I have 3 pairs of shoes, different pairs of shoes that I use, and one of the problems that I've had is you know, the pronation and all that stuff, and I wear the soles down, and when I'm down to 191 now, but I started at 230. And when you're heavier, you wear shoes out faster, and I was wearing the heels out, so I got this stuff called shoe goo, and it's preserved. It's basically, it just looks like paste, clear paste, and you just
support on the bottom, the sole of your shoe. I got it. I don't know if I got it at the local place, department stores, and its first two letters are WA. Anyway, so I got it there, and I used that on all 3 pairs of shoes, and probably about at least once every 2 weeks, I have to restore the sole of the shoe. So that has been very helpful. It's called shoe goo. Now, one of the things about training for a sprint marathon is that you've got lack of daylight, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about the schedule. But the lack of daylight is a big problem if you're working to try to find, of course, cold weather, ice at night, dark ice that you can't see. So you want, my preference, in fact, I rarely run at night, because if there's dark ice and I can't see something, I slip and I fall, it's going to be all over. So, so darkness is a big problem, and so what I'm able to do is get away during the day, sometimes during work. I do my short runs 3 times a week. I have a short run 3 days a week. I have 2 long runs and then 1 extra long run. My extra long run is on my fasting day, which is Sunday. My feast day is Saturday. So when I do my extra long run on Sunday, it's the day after my feast day, so I have a lot of carbohydrates. This has been key to the success of this entire enterprise, because even though I'm dieting, which always makes me prone to muscle pulls, on the days when I'm most challenged, for my last run of the week, I am totally carb loaded, as carb loaded as I can be. And this has worked like a champ, that in conjunction with allowing myself some more sugary carbohydrates during the week in terms of part of my caloric intake, has basically allowed me to avoid muscle pulls. I tape my legs. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I've got this, if I can find it, I've got this like clear tape. And this stuff is great, and again I get it at WA. And it's like a clear tape, and it's, instead of the old white adhesive tape that everybody used to use in the past, and you know what I'm talking about. It's the stuff, the white stuff that athletes have used since Adam and Eve. This stuff is very easy to tear, but it's strong enough that it does provide some support. But once you get it on, you can tape it several times over to make it stronger and stronger, but even if you can watch, and that makes it really easy to get off, and I use it to basically tape. I'm not sure you can see it, but here, this is my thigh. The only problem is the goo is hard to get off after you get it off, but I've got 2 bands on this leg right now, because I like to keep this thigh stabilized, because I think I still have some adhesions in it, and it wants to pull unless I keep the muscle stabilized. So this is only for minor support, but let me show you how easy this is to get off. I tore it there, and I tore it there. Okay. Now, with the regular white athletic tape, that you get, and it's really that easy to tear, and it's just a drain. The only drawback is like I said, the sticky stuff is difficult to get off, and actually the best way to get that off, if I had thought about it beforehand, is actually to pull it off with the tape. But it's hard, that's the only drawback of the tape. Otherwise, I love the tape anyway, but it's great tape. It's a clear, let's see if I can find the name of it. But anyway, it's clear tape, and it's where all the athletic tape is, and so I highly recommend that. arch. I have basically what amounts to foot pad, like Dr. Scholl's foot pads in the soles and the bottoms of my running shoes, which adds weight to it, which is the drawback. But I'll tell you what, in the '94 marathon, I had a serious arch problem at about the 21st mile, and I actually had to walk for about a mile because I turned a corner and I stepped down on my foot and it just shooting pain. Now I was able to continue running after a while, but after I walked off, I think it must have been tendonitis that I had in that foot, but I still am a little bit concerned about that, so I built up the arches in both shoes, but you may want to consider arch supports if you have any inclination you're going to have arch problems. I know that's an issue as far as I'm concerned, but I've taken care of it. I would show you what I've done, but let me tell you, it's pretty gross. Okay. Another thing is of course, one of the things you got to worry about is equipment. I have, two of those belts to take I have one of these little wallets like this to take with you, and also my cell phone fits in there. And so when I go on my longer runs, I take those belts with me to test them out to make sure that the equipment is going to work when I marathon runs, because you always want to test what you're going to wear. You want to at the marathon, don't ever take anything that you've never done before or never tried before, because it will go wrong, I guarantee you. Okay, close this. One of the big things that you've got to do is you've got to worry about rain and mist days. Now in a fall race like what I've done before, what you're always fighting is thunderstorms, basically, because you've got lots of daylight and the heat. The heat and thunderstorms are basically what you're fighting. It's going to may cause you to not run. Most people are not going to run in the middle of the day. They're probably going to run in the morning or at night, and if you're training during the summer. But thunderstorms around this is Virginia. We have thunderstorms a lot during the summer, and you can miss a lot of days for thunderstorms. What happens? I'm going to show you a schedule. What happens if you miss a few days during the training? What I do is that I don't alter the schedule. If I miss a day because of bad weather or whatever, I have a tendency to just punt and just stick with the schedule. Whatever the next day calls for. If it's a short run, I just do the short run. If it's a long run, I do the long run, whatever. It's like it never happened. I leave the schedule. I do that unless if that happens, if I have to miss a run like more than, if you're talking about like the last 10 weeks before the marathon, if it gets that I've missed like 3 runs, then I will adjust the schedule. But I prefer not to do that, because it seems like once you start doing that, everything gets out of whack to begin with, and I don't really have that's the way I handle it. You handle it any way you want. I try when I'm going to show you the schedule. I'm very concerned when I set up the schedule that I get as much mileage in each. I count mileage, total mileage of the week, and I want to get above 45 miles a week for at least 6 weeks prior to the marathon. So I'm on the verge of being there right now in terms of what I've done, and I hopefully in the next 2 weeks will be at that level, and then I want to maintain it and slightly increase my longest runs of the week. When you do this, make the situation work for you. You got to be disciplined. You don't want to make excuses. I mean, sometimes it's just a judgment call, and you got to balance the factors. but make the situation work for you. Let's see here, working shoes, switch. Okay, so how did I do the switch over from the 3 days to the 6 days? Well, sometime in the middle of December, instead of running 3 days a week, I decided that I would pick one of those days that I was running. I can't remember. It was knowing me, it was probably the last run of the week, and ran not only that day but the following day as well. So I had one, then a day off, then ran, then a day off, then ran. And I did that, for probably for 2 weeks, and then the next week I would do run, off, run, off, run. And I just gradually built up, and then I would try to run 3 days in a row. I was really amazed. I was able to progress to 3, 4, and 5, and 6 very quickly. I was shocked I was able to do it that easily. I really, I was a little bit concerned that, especially since I'm older, that I would need more recuperation time, and then that I really believed in November there was no way I was going to be able to run 6 days a week. There's just no question. What I have learned through all of this is losing all of this weight. I used to think that a lot of my problems were age related, but as I've lost this weight, and especially since I'm able to run the 6 days, and I've had fewer injury problems. I think a lot of that has been due to the loss of weight, and the loss of weight has actually sort of made me younger. And I think giving myself a few more carbs have helped in that respect. But that transition from running 3 days a week, to 6 days, like I said, that was like over about a 6 weeks period that I transitioned there. And like I said, my 1,700 calories a day gradually crept up to 2,200. Frankly, that happened. I didn't do that so much by design. It was almost by necessity. I mean, like I was just, I sort of started slipping into the gum thing, and I was creeping over the 1,700 calories, and I just seemed not to be able to keep. But I didn't get discouraged if I went over the 1,700 calories and just eat a bunch of donuts after that. What I did was I kept it as low as I could. I tried very hard to keep it below, as low as possible, but I was dead, I never let it go over 2,300 calories or something like that. And if my basement metabolic rate is 2,700, so even at 2,300 calories, I'm saving, I'm down 400 calories for that day, even though I'm above my 1,700 limit. But anyway, that evolved into that, and I think it was just a function of, as my mileage went up, my body could use the extra calories, and it just slipped into it, and it's worked. I've had incredibly good luck in terms of training this time, knock on wood. Anyway, so that's where we are on all this. I want to get back to more substantive thing about the politics in the stock market and all that kind of stuff that I've been talking about before. But this whole process, when I ran in 80, 82, and in 92, and in 94, when I was training, 6 weeks prior to the marathon, when I was at max mileage, I think that what I was running was 435 minutes a week. That's a little over 6 hours. That's 6 hours and 15 minutes. Well, now to cover the same mileage, I have to run more than 10 hours because I'm so much slower. I was running, 8.5 minute miles back then. Now I'm running 12.5 minute miles, and you do it, that's 1.5 times. So the bottom line is that this takes an incredible amount of time for me, and and I got to earn a living and do that, do the videos and do all this stuff, and it's just very, very time consuming. So I apologize, I haven't been able to keep it up to date. I'm going to do slides about the running schedule to show you that, and my 6 day a week. and so you'll have something that you can see that hopefully will make some sense. I'll try to keep you up to date on my progress. I'm scheduled to do 43.5 miles this week, 45 miles next week, 46.5, then 48, then 50, then 51, then 52. And that takes me to 2 weeks before the marathon. The week before the marathon, I cut back a little bit, back to 45. The week of the marathon, I only run 3 times, and they're relatively, the first 2 are normal runs, but on the Thursday before the Sunday marathon, I only run 2 miles, so I have 2 full days off. And one of those days is a travel day. So I may even take the Thursday off, so I'll have 3 days off. I go round and round about that. I don't know what good that 2 mile. I don't know. There's something about my own, especially as I've gotten older. For some reason, I just have it in my mind that if I take 3 days off, I immediately go stale. I don't know. It's a psychological thing. But any event. I'm scheduled for my longest run 7 weeks from now, which will be the Sunday 2 weeks before the marathon, 17 miles. The week before the marathon, I'll do a 13-miler, but I'll build up to 17 miles, and for that week it'll be 52 miles. So anyway, but I will post the running schedule. Maybe you will find it beneficial. Where did I get the running schedule? My girlfriend, when I ran my very first marathon, got me a book about how to train for a marathon, and basically I just have recollected what that schedule was in terms of time, and I've just sort of, this is basically the schedule. I've tiny little tweak on the extra long runs, but it's basically the same schedule, and the amazing thing is that even though the longest run is set back then, the furthest I ran in 1980 when I ran my first marathon before the marathon, the farthest I ran is the furthest or farthest, I don't know, but the farthest that I ran in training 2 weeks before the marathon was 14 miles. So I had 12.2 unknown miles, and I just trusted this book. The book basically said, trust me, you can do it, and I bought it hook, line, and sinker, and darned if I didn't finish in 4 hours and 2 minutes. And 2 years later, I finished it using pretty much the same schedule in 3 hours, 42 minutes, 36 seconds. But I'm not in that league anymore. So anyway, but I'm going to go 17 this time. But you think about it, that's still 9.2 unknown miles at the end. The longest run is the last run of the week. It's to build a certain level of mental toughness. When you're depleted, because let's face it, you're going to have to do it. It's a mental tug of war when you get out there, to say the least. And anyway, so I'll keep you informed. Don't have any political news or anything about the business world or the stock market at this time, but we will get back to that kind of stuff more intensively after the Pittsburgh Marathon. But thanks for visiting reasonandbalance.com. This is Dave Lentz. Thanks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, folks. I really hadn't planned on doing something like this, but I've just got some time to kill, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. My diet is heavily loaded with turkey breast. Now, a particular I guess, manufacturer, or a butcher, I guess, or whatever, makes a smoked turkey breast. They make a mesquite, and they make a cracked pepper, and they're very, very low in fat. In fact, they're 50 calories per 2 ounces, and they've got no very low in preservatives. So I really don't know how to interpret this, but I found some preservative-free ones, but they took them off the market. Not this particular manufacturer. I don't like to use the word manufacturer. I guess delicatessen. Anyway, their product is very good, and see, I eat it even without bread to keep my carbs down. And I mean, my diet is very, very Spartan and very, very simple, except on my feast day. I really just eat this straight out of the package. No bread, no mayonnaise, no butter, for sure. Mustard's not too bad. In fact, I don't think there are any calories in mustard, but I just eat it straight out. Same with this. I don't put any salad dressing on it. This is a local grocery stores. They call these the Simple Truth Organic Power Greens, a versatile mix of baby spinach, mizuna, chard, and kale. And I just eat this like, I just reach in there, grab some, and just eat it. Now, in the old days, I used to go to one of my favorite salad bars, and they would have something similar to this, and I would use this, and I would put like a little piece of pineapple in there, some blueberries, maybe some raisins. But I don't have access to that anymore. It's not very convenient for me. So that's a long story. So now I just eat this. So in terms of my carbs and my fructose sugar type intake that provides quick energy, believe it or not, so that I will not eat things like candy bars and crackers and donuts and stuff like that. I've been chewing sugar-free gum and regular sugar gum. Now, the reason I like regular, like Juicy Fruit or Wrigley Spearmint Double Mint, is that what I've found is that, number one, if I chew gum, I consume less calories. I do a lot of chewing. It gets kind of annoying. Where's my jaw at? But for example, today, I'm going to give you a shocking statistic. Today, I consumed about 2,100 calories today. I'm getting ready to go to bed. And of that 2,100 calories, no less than 900 of those calories were consumed because of chewing sugar-free gum at 5 calories per stick. Juicy Fruit, which is regular gum, which is full sugar on it, is 10 calories per stick. I guess the gum itself must have some calories in it, but that's a lot of gum. I mean, when it runs out of flavor after like 15 or 20 minutes, I'm on to the next. I just put some more in my mouth. My colleagues at work think I'm crazy, but actually I found that it's worked. And I'll tell you one thing, I haven't had any, I've said this before, I have had no problem with stiffness of muscles. I've had no problems with pulled muscles. I mean, in terms of the way my body feels during this stint of training, I've never felt better. Now, part of it may be since it's not summer, I've never been dehydrated, or sunburned or whatever you get during the summer. But I've got to tell you, I feel great. So the gum works. The other thing is Lifesavers do a lot of and they're about 15 calories per Lifesaver. So that's not necessarily the greatest idea, because actually I end up not sucking on them. I just start chewing them. I seem to be incapable of just putting and just letting it dissolve in my mouth. But you know, you can, you know, I haven't done this very much in the last few months, but like if I wanted a baked potato, if I would get something like chopped up, like almost like a salsa, like onion and tomato, and put that on there, and maybe some salt and pepper, no sour cream, no butter, that's not necessarily that bad. You know, a lot of times it's not what you eat, it's how it's prepared and what it's prepared in. That's why you don't eat fried food, for example. Things like that. But like I say, I pretty much stick to this. And the other thing is just 1 second, please. These are chicken of the sea sardines, and they're great. And I get the ones in Louisiana hot sauce. They're 3.75 ounces. I think I went on their website and I was a little bit shocked. I think what they said on their website was that this was 75 calories. It's not that filling, but of course, you know, it's got the healthy omegas in it. So I eat this instead of like tuna fish, because it's heart healthy, it's brain healthy, and so these are my 2 sources of proteins. Sometimes when I'm at work, I will go to the snack machine and get some peanuts, lightly salted peanuts. But I will tell you, if I do that on the days that I go and get those peanuts, those are the days I have a hard time staying under the calorie count, because for like 2 ounces of peanuts you've got 330 calories, and that just, it doesn't sound like that much, but peanuts are great because they do sort of fill you up pretty, you know, but that's not very much, you know. 330 calories for a small bag of peanuts, which is, you know, it's a bag, it's about, you know, probably about that, you know, this is 3.75, that's, so actually that, weight-wise, it's about 70% of what we've got here, but, you know, in terms of number of bites, 330, this right here, 9 ounces, is 225 calories, the whole pack. So if I wanted to have lunch and I ate all 9 ounces, that's 225 calories. Hard to beat that. Very hard to beat that. And if I just, you know, eat some of this, the kale and the spinach here, you know, take a couple heaping handfuls of that, you know, I'm under 300 calories, and I've had a fair amount to eat. I mean, like, for example, sometimes I will allow myself in the morning, first thing, a Egg McMuffin at McDonald's, which is 300 calories. But even so, you know, that the content of that is about 40% of what's in here, and it's 300 calories. This is virtually probably about 2.5 times as much food, and it's only 225 calories. So, you know, that's why I'm so pro turkey breast and this, because you can't, in terms of nutrients, in terms of vitamins and minerals, you can't get much healthier than spinach and kale. I don't do the grape tomatoes anymore. Number one, I like them. I am a proponent of them, but for some reason I got some bad ones recently, and I haven't been doing that. They're about, they're fairly expensive though. That's one of the drawbacks of grape tomatoes. I also eat, well, not very much of it. I've sort of stayed away from cereals. I used to, as part of my diets, I would eat things that, you know, oats. But I found that the calories just seem to build up on those too. So, like I said, my diet is fairly Spartan, but I've dropped from 230 to 191 now. So that's what's that? 39 pounds, I guess. And I haven't had any pulled muscles, so it's calling me crazy, but it works so far. Knock on wood. All right, hey folks, this is Dave Lentz, reasonandbalance.com. I did want to show you, I think I mentioned in the video, this stuff called shoe goo. I have 3 pairs of shoes that I practice in. One of the reasons for that is I have a very large foot. I wear a size 15. It makes it very difficult to find shoes. My foot is somewhere between a D and an E width. I have a hard time finding shoes, and even when I find them, when you run a lot of miles, anybody that runs a lot of miles know that sometimes you develop foot problems, especially toe problems, and I do. I'm on the verge of losing one toenail, and I also have a potential arch problem. It gave me a problem in 1994. But I have 3 different pairs of shoes, and because I have a hard time finding shoes, I've got to make them last. So this is more maybe of an issue for me than it would be for some people. And besides that, you know, I'm a larger person. Even though I've gotten down to 191, I mean, you know, my normal weight's somewhere around somewhere in the 235 to 250 range anymore now. When I was a youngster, I was, you know, 195 to 205 range. But as I've gotten larger, and the bigger you get, the more you wear out shoes. Anyway, to make a long story short, I've got to figure out a way to make them last longer. Like right now, I have 3 different pairs of shoes that I use. I've got a pair of New Balance, I've got a pair of Reeboks, and I've got a pair of Asics that, and I still haven't decided what I'm going to run. In fact, I may actually go out and buy yet another pair. You know, I've had various problems with all 3 of them, and I'm not denigrating these brands. These shoes serve me well, but you know, they wear, and it just seems like the foot issue. There's always something with regard to my feet. When you run a lot of miles, that's just what happens. And I wanted to show you that to make things last longer, I've got this stuff. It's called shoe goo. And I wanted to apply some of it and show you how it gets applied. But it's basically like a super glue. It's shoe goo, and it comes in a tube, and it's pretty quickly. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's clear. It's clear, and you basically, what I do is like, I don't know if you can see. I've already got some on my Asics pair here. This is the newest pair that I have, and they're still sort of worn, but I would sort of like apply it on the heel right here. I'm not going to do it because I actually want to run in these tomorrow, and I don't have time to apply the shoe goo because I like to give it 48 hours. Now it does work sometimes in like maybe 24 to 36, but it'll wear down faster. It really takes, at least to me and to my way of thinking, at least 48 hours. So you know, you apply it right like here, and you got to watch, because sometimes what will happen is that it will run. I don't know if I have a pair where I can show you. So you can't just put the shoe down, because when you put it up, when you layer it on there, sometimes it'll run down over the side, or it might even get on your countertop or on your rug, depending on where you're setting the shoes to dry. I try to set mine outside so they get a lot of air. Like on these, these are my oldest shoes, and in a lot of respects, these are my Reeboks, and I really like. I like all three pairs of shoes, but I like these. These seem to be the widest shoes that I have, but these are probably also the most worn out because I've had a lot of use out of these, and they just don't seem to have as much cushion anymore. Now, I have gone out and bought some foot pads, and I've actually built up my own arches, as you can see. That's nothing but actually tissue paper, and I've just taped around it to build up the arch, and actually it's worked for me. Now, I did go in and get fitted for arch supports, but they wanted $750, and I thought about it for a while, and I said, you know, I think I can make some of these, and that's what I've done, and it's worked pretty well for me. So if you're patient and you build up your own arch supports, you can do that. It's worked for me. I don't know if it would work for everybody else. But this is the shoe goo. As you can see, it's kind of clear on there. It's already, as you can see, it's already started to dry. But if you get it too thick, it will run, and it can run over the side of the shoe and onto countertops or onto the rug. So you got to sort of make sure when you set it up that you watch it at least initially for a little while, that it doesn't run off. And like I said, I pronate and I hit the outside back edge of my shoe, and I wear this part of all shoes down. Anyway, that's how I get extended wear out of my shoes. And I thought I would make you aware of the shoe goo, because it's one of the little tricks of the trade. You know, equipment, if you're talking about a marathon, it's just a very important issue. One thing I did want to mention, and because this is something that's very easy to forget, it's sort of an interesting little tidbit. I guess anybody that's going to line up for a marathon probably will be told this sooner or later. But lest I forget, in fact, I'm going to have to remember this myself, is try to remember to put some Band-Aids or some kind of tape on your nipples, because when you sweat, and if your shirt gets wet, it'll start chafing on your nipples. It's sort of a unique problem, and you know, I've never had any problem with that except in marathons. I guess there's something about going over 13 miles that makes that a problem. I don't, you know, this is going to be an early, well, I guess a mid-spring marathon. I don't know how much sweating we're going to do. All the prior marathons that I've been in have been fall events, and so anyway, but I just wanted to mention that before, you know, to make sure you bring some Band-Aids and tape them up, because they will chafe. So I mentioned that, and I showed you the shoe goo, and I'm probably going to have some more little helpful hints and stuff to talk about, but thanks for joining, and I will talk to you later.